The first artist we're dealing with when it comes to futurism is going to be Boccioni, who created the definitive work of futurist sculpture. And it's kind of a difficult one to wrap your head around, at least until we start breaking it down. So let's look at unique forms of continuity in space. And what we see is this massive life-size bronze sculpture. It highlights formal and spatial effects of motion rather than their source. So we're not looking for the source of the motion. When you think about Michelangelo and he depicts someone as moving, we're always going to see the source of that movement. In other words, we're going to see certain muscles tensed, and that tells us that that person is moving, that the subject is moving. What Boccioni is doing here is he's actually showing us the spatial effect of the motion, what's happening in space, rather than where the motion is coming from. And what is that motion? Well, he's actually running. When you look at the piece, what you want to do is break it down, because imagine that we're seeing all of these images overlapped, as if they're double exposed, or in this case, 10 times exposed. The figure becomes distorted and broken, so it becomes a blur of its own motion. As we look at it, we can actually start to break it down along those lines. Now here, obviously, we have a front view, so I'll put a little F there. And here we're seeing it from the side. And what you're actually seeing is multiple views of the same thing. For example, the shin of this front leg. The front leg is coming from a position in back where it's coming down and planting so that the body can come over the top. And what we're seeing is the shin is here, and then the shin is here, and then the shin is here, and then the shin appears to be here. It's giving us that idea that we're seeing multiple images at the same time, giving us that sense of movement, really trying to capture motion blur in bronze. Why would he want to do that? Well, think about how unusual the concept really is. You can't blur bronze, not like you can a painting. You can't capture that sense of motion, but he's trying to do exactly that. Let's pick other areas. For example, the hips. So here we'll look at the other side. We see the hip and that swing of the hip down into the buttock, where the hips are moving back and forth as he runs, the right hip coming forward, then the left hip coming forward as he's moving. He's breaking down not the form itself, not the person, but rather the movement. And we see the same thing with the leg. Here's a calf for the rear leg. It repeats there. It repeats here. So we're seeing it come forward. We see the same thing. Here's the musculature, for example, the hamstring, where we can see that tensed muscle. We know that that is a functioning muscle, so we know that he's trying to push forward. So we get this incredible sense of movement. And as we look at it closer, even the face is trying to capture a sense of movement. Now, he's simplified the face because when you're running, imagine someone sprinting past you. It's very difficult to make out the details of the face. So instead, he's giving us bare basic, sort of breaking it down to abstract concepts. Here's the eyes. Here's that line every artist uses from the eyes and the head down to the chin and the mouth, where you lay out everything. Here's the concept of the nose, but it's back here because, of course, that face is moving side to side as he's running along. And this piece becomes symbolic of the futurist desire to capture the dynamic qualities of modern life. They're trying to capture this movement in a media in which movement has never really been captured before. So they're using these cubist ideas to break down movement instead of breaking down and analyzing form. And you come up with this, which really is capturing running, capturing movement.